Think.
Yep.
I'm live. Here we go. No muting because there was no intro. We're here. What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media on Patriots postgame, where the Patriots just got spanked by the 49ers, 30-13 in Santa Clara. They fall to 1-3 heading into Week 5 against the Miami Dolphins. Nothing really went right here tonight, Taylor. The offense didn't look good. The defense, the secondary wasn't great. There was some great plays on the on the 49ers side on offense. Obviously, Patriots did force a turnover in the end zone. Jabril Peppers, nice interception. But overall, I saw a tweet from Alex Barth where he said there's not much to dig too deep into for this game, and I think he's kind of right. I think it was just bad football, bad play, no improvement. I guess they improved a little bit on the defensive side of the ball throughout the second half, where early in the first half, they continue to not contain the edge like they did against the Jets. They improved a little bit on that, where Brock Purdy was like running wild in the first half, making plays, scrambling, doing his thing. They contained that a little bit in the second half, but overall, it wasn't enough. They got it to a 2-score game at one point. It was 27-13, I believe they cut it to. And then 49ers get 3, and then that's a wrap. The offense, Jacoby Brissett himself, not great at all. 19 of 32 for 168 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and a pick. He was sacked 6 times. He was hit, I want to say 9 or 10 times, I believe. Not great. Yeah, 10 QB hits for the San Francisco defense. So not great overall. Patriots offense continues to find themselves not putting up points. Ramondre Stevenson fumbles for a 4th game in a row. We're going to get to all of it. That's just sort of the gist of it, but I'll kick to you, Taylor, quickly. What are your main thoughts, big takeaways, as the Patriots unfortunately fall to 1-3 after the first quarter of the 2024 season?
This was the kind of game that I thought Jacoby Brissett could not have, where you're putting the ball in harm's way. I think there were 4 times at least where you could see he was trying to extend the play or something and then tried to throw the ball and either had it fumbled or it just was way too close for comfort. And then on the last time he did that, he actually got strip sacked on a play where, Demontre Jacobs got beat so fast by Nick Bosa. I felt like he didn't even feel him coming off the edge, which with Bosa one-on-one, you'd hope that he would be quicker there. We also saw earlier in the game, he missed a high-low where he could have thrown with anticipation. Demario Douglas, he didn't. The pick 6, honestly, I know how bad it looked. And he did hold on to the ball. And I know people were like, oh, Jalen Polk was open on the other side. But, as a quarterback, you're reading like, okay, this route's not there. Then this one's coming into the lane. That's not there. I'm going to throw the next thing coming into the lane. That was a ridiculous play by Fred Warner. It just turned into the worst case scenario. And I don't want to sound like an apologist because I'm not. This is the game that I didn't want to see from Jacoby. And I said, for him and Alex Van Pelt, this was my big litmus test where it's like 3 games, you're getting close to you're starting to see patterns. 4 games in, now we have a pretty good idea of where these guys are at. Jacoby throwing downfield, other than the Jalen Polk play, that was almost freaking insane. That was even still risky because you had the safety coming over the top.
And it was 4th and 5. I hated that decision, Taylor. I hated that decision. I don't know what the other routes were. I didn't look at the play close enough, but to throw a go ball on 4th and 5, 30 yards down the sideline, I didn't love that at all. I thought there should have been an answer elsewhere, and if there wasn't, that's on the play caller. But continue.
Yeah, and there was another throw that he had deep to Tyquan Thornton where KJ Osborne was open because you could see pre-snap. I'm like, that guy's about to blitz. Just throw it to KJ Osborne, take the easy yards. And sometimes it feels like Jacoby has a hard time taking some of those just easy completions. And that's the really frustrating part is you're getting harassed back there. You're taking big hits. You're trying your best just to survive and, stay upright. But at the same time, it's a lot of different things where it's the pressure and it's sometimes him making things worse. And we'll get into, the whole Drake Maye conversation. I just wanted to put out there very plainly, 1, I do not think Jacoby Brissett played well today. I really wish I could say that, put Drake Maye in there. But again, for reasons we'll talk about later, I just don't think they can do that. Defensively, the first half was rough. I really thought this game was going to get disgusting in the second half where it was just like a complete runaway freight train. The defense really did hunker down, though, and they deserve some credit for that. Now, they gave up their plays, but we were never under the impression they were going to shut down the 49ers defense. We knew that Jawan Jennings catch with Marcus Jones. That's when we're like, yeah, that's what you expect from the 49ers, where you can have perfect coverage and still be wrong. But then you have the busted coverage from Jalen Hawkins where it looked like they got beat by that deep dig so many times. I think he overcommitted to it. And there are some coverages where that's okay, where like Jalen Hawkins goes down on that, and maybe the other corner gets depth instead so they can end up bracketing the post. But it didn't look like that was the play call. And then what else? Joshua Uche missed a tackle in the backfield and then blew right past the offensive line on the touchdown run. You see that from him all the time. It's completely unacceptable.
Yep.
I think they took him off the field at one point on early downs. For Curtis Jacobs, a guy that we were kind of talking about, if they needed to make some room on the roster, is probably one of the guys that they would cut, if anyone. Keon White gave up the edge multiple times. Almost every time Brock Purdy got out of the pocket early on, it was to Keon White's side. Now, to the defense's credit, I think they adjusted by putting Keon inside and instead having Dietrich Wise on the edge and then having them twist. The first time it didn't work out because it just didn't look coordinated. They got better after that. So again, I do want to give credit where it's due to the defense for bouncing back, but also Ramondre Stevenson's fumble. It's completely unacceptable. Obviously, it didn't happen again after he sat down and got talked to, but that's ridiculous. 4 games in a row in the second week in a row that you lose one. I'm just kind of going rapid fire. Jelani Tavai was getting picked on in coverage. There was that one play where got called back for a touchdown because George Kittle got called for a penalty. But he completely lost on, I think it was a Texas route from the backfield where he was going all the way outside like it was a flat and then couldn't recover in time to cover the play. So that's really all the stuff I have from the offense and defense in terms of the quick hitters. But also the special teams, we got to give it up for them. Bryce Behringer, fantastic game. Brendan Schooler had a few tackles. Joey Sly, was it a franchise record, that field goal that he made? It was longest in Patriots history?
Yes, it was a 63-yarder. Was the longest. He beat out Steven Gostowski, who hit a 62-yarder like 6 or 7 years ago, I think.
There you go. So,
Pretty wild.
great for him as well. Christian Ellis, man, not only forcing a fumble, he put a blocker into the returner and then recovered it. Great awareness by him, made a tackle as well. So I really want to give credit to the special teams. They're a big reason this was, I don't want to say competitive necessarily, but that it wasn't a full-on blowout for the entire game, and it felt like at some points maybe they can mount a comeback. But yeah, man, this is an ugly game. There's a lot this team needs to do better. At least we saw some flashes from the defense where it's like, okay, that's what we want to see, especially given all the injuries. I mean, my God, dude. Like Kyle Duggar leaves the game. You're already missing Jawan Bentley. Keon White was banged up at one point. You lose Caden Wallace. He had to be picked up off the field and carried by teammates.
That was a tough scene.
Yeah, the injuries for this team are really rough, and you really can never ignore those when you're talking about how bad they're playing because those are significant. But, there's a lot more you want to see from this offense. And I don't know when it's going to get better because I don't know when you can put Drake Maye in there.
Let's start with that then. Let's start with Jacoby Brissett and sort of dive a little bit deeper in that because, like I said, 19-32, 168 yards, had the touchdown to Austin Hooper on a nice play call on 4th down, but also the interception. And we can dive into the interception in a second, but quotes right now coming in from the Patriots locker room. Gerard Mayo is at the podium right now, told reporters that at this point Jacoby is our starting quarterback, saying that they'll go and watch the film, but right now he's sticking by Brissett, which don't know again if a quarterback change is going to do any good for this team right now. We'll dive into that a little bit more, but right now it sounds like they're sticking by Brissett. Now I like that you mentioned the interception he threw, Taylor, because you're right. It was an outstanding play by Fred Warner, one of the best linebackers, obviously, in football, where you're right. It looked like there were guys open coming across the middle when you look at it from behind Brissett. But Warner also kind of ran with Jalen Polk at the time. So he baited him into thinking, oh, let's throw it behind him, or throw it behind me, rather. And then as soon as he took his eyes off Polk, Warner ran back into coverage and picked the football off and made a great play. Obviously makes a nice play, run into the end zone as well and scoring the touchdown. But I didn't like, it wasn't a great play by Jacoby Brissett, but it was an outstanding play by Fred Warner, where I think you can kind of see it and look at it both ways in that. But overall, even though he was under siege and under fire all game, I still thought it was probably Brissett's worst game so far this season. Now, you could say that, the Jets game was pretty bad too. Like, he's not playing great, but he's also not getting any help from the offensive line. So I can see where, fans and even some media people will argue that, well, why not just throw Drake Maye in there? Because he's going to make this bad offensive line look a little bit better, where there were times Jacoby was kind of running around today like a chicken with his head cut off, where the pressure got to him. He ran around. There was one play where he broke out of the right side of the pocket. Nobody was coming across the middle for him because all the plays were going to the outside. And then he just kind of stood there and had to take a sack. Now, I don't know if Drake Maye turns that into a first down. I don't know if he makes a better play because we haven't seen it. but there were times where you would like to have a more athletic quarterback back there when the play is falling apart. So I get that sentiment where Brissett's not playing great. I just don't see Drake Maye doing much better. Like, I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on Brissett, where it's not good, but it's not good because of everything that's around him. And it's just, it's a tough situation, and it's hard to know if it's going to get much better because of the injuries as well. We can dive into those injuries right now along the offensive line, where you mentioned Caden Wallace. He leaves the game, gets rolled up on. Ramondre falls into his ankle. He gets to come off the field. But David Andrews leaves the game after their first drive, a shoulder injury, goes to the locker room, and doesn't return. And so if we're talking about Drake Maye going into the game, you want Drake Maye going into the game with Nick Leverett as his starting center for his week 1 start, or his first start rather? Absolutely not. In this system as well, they like to take a little bit off the quarterback's shoulders and put it on the center as far as line adjustments and calls and things like that. And so if you have to take out your starting center in David Andrews and put in a backup for, the foreseeable future in Leverett, I'm not putting Drake Maye behind him. I want a David Andrews out there for Drake Maye's first start. So it seemed as though they were trying to set this up where, and I tweeted this a few minutes ago, where they want to set it up so that the team is ready for Drake Maye when he comes into play. And right now, even if Maye's ready, the team's not. And I don't see this being a feasible landing spot or situation for him right now going forward.
Yeah, man. I think we all watched it and were wishing that, and just wondering, like, what if Drake Maye was in there instead?
Right.
Like, how many of these, runs could he turn into big gains where Jacoby just really doesn't have the wheels to do it? How many times could Drake Maye have let the ball fly and then this game is closer? Like, I get that. And it's frustrating. Like, I feel like fans get confused and think that, just because we have opinions on when Drake Maye should go in, that, we have control. It's okay to disagree. I would like also one thing, to remember that, not necessarily here, y'all have been fine, but overall, social media and everything, let's keep things respectful, all right? Yeah. Because I think it's very fair for a contingent of fans to say, hey, I'm sick of watching this offense. I want to see Drake Maye out there. Totally fine. I think it's also very valid to see I am seeing Jacoby Brissett. I can hear his ribs screaming through the television and through his flak jacket. And yes, Drake Maye may be able to get out of some of those plays, but we literally saw on the one drive he had against the Jets, he was sacked multiple times. Drake is still going to be missing. Did I not say Drake Maye?
No, I'm just throwing Brian's name up there.
Geez,
Brian. It's Brian. I just had to give him some love.
But and there's going to be plays that he misses, and we all know that. We know he's going to be a rookie. He's going to make his mistakes. But even Rob Gronkowski acknowledged that there is a residual effect if you put a young quarterback in a bad spot. When we were talking about Drake Maye starting, and I keep having to bring this up because I know it gets lost after everything that's happened. We were talking about an offensive line with the healthy City So, David Andrews, and Mike Nwunu as your interior, with Vidarian Lowe and Chuks Okorafor as your tackles. Chuks, obviously not great, but he's been a starter in the NFL. If Vidarian Lowe is your one weak spot, but you have a good pocket, I felt good about that. And with the receivers, we've seen, Jalen Polk is a playmaker. We know we can see more from Demario Douglas. Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper are solid complementary pieces. We thought that Drake Maye would be able to elevate them to be the best version of themselves in terms of downfield prowess and things like that. He was going to take his licks, but you were going to see the development. Now we're talking about a completely different situation. Wide receiver, yeah, it's about the same. And I think there's plenty of promising things from that group. Sure. But you're also seeing the offensive line. This is not sustainable. You're talking about a line that just had 2 backups and a rookie, and then City So still not playing great, because we saw he was in a battle with Layden Robinson, and he hasn't practiced since last preseason game, or played since last preseason game. So as much as we wanted him to get back out there and look great, the reality is there were going to be some speed bumps, but we have no idea how quickly these are going to get resolved, because one of them was just on a twist where he didn't even give himself a chance, and Nick Bosa came around and it was a blown play. So I agree that Drake Maye would give this team a better chance to win. I think you'd be crazy to think they didn't. But these short-term wins are not worth Drake Maye's long-term development. That is the bottom line. And if you put him against it's one thing if it's for maybe the last month, and you get to have your Drake Maye showcase and you say, all right, you know what, this is the best it's going to get.
Right.
But you're not only risking his health. We're it's not like you can say, oh, he's a tough kid. Jacoby's tough as they come. And this dude is in pain all the time. We can't just ignore those things. And even if it's not necessarily, oh my God, now people are saying I love Jacoby.
I'm just sitting here kind of reading the chat. The chat it's funny though, Taylor. The chat is very polarized right now, where it's saying, don't play Drake Maye, play Drake Maye. It's pretty much 50-50. And I like that it's polarizing because it's not like we're just sitting here like someone saying in the chat, like, we're representing the Patriots, whatever. Like, we're not holding the Patriots water here. It's just we just have a different opinion than some of the other people, and so do other people in the chat. It's not this complicated thing where we're sitting here saying that Jacoby Brissett's a good quarterback and is playing well right now. He's not. And it's also, I see in the chat somewhere where Drake Maye's an adult and he's a grown man. He can take getting hit. It's not about the injuries. It's not about that. It's about
partially it is, though. Partially it is. I don't care how old he is. He's also 23. What are you talking about as a grown man?
All right, but my point though is that it's not about the fact that he's going to go out there and not be able to take the hits because he's like small and is going to get hurt. Right. It's the fact that if there's no offensive line help and they can't run the offense the way they want to, then he's just going to get his internal clock sped up like a mile a minute, and he's just going to go back there and panic like we already saw in some of the Jets games, like when we broke it down last week, where he's dropping back on a quick read, one-step drop, and he panics, drops his head, and just tries to run for a first down and runs right into an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman or whatever it was. And so, look, there's two ways to skin the cat here, but at the end of the day, like, Brissett's under siege. He's not making good plays. I don't want to, but I also don't want to see Drake Maye be put in this spot. It doesn't make sense. There's too much. I like the way you said it, where short-term wins, it's not worth, him going back there, getting his butt kicked, not being able to truly run the system, and just trying to make off-schedule, off-platform plays all the time. Then he's not developing into a quarterback that you want to see, and a quarterback that can win long-term and learn to read a defense and learn to understand a system and things like that. And so, I think we're
got 2 straight games where the Patriots had to come back from big deficits too.
Right.
Another position you don't want your young quarterback in when they could just tee off on the guy, because the defense obviously in the first half and got better, but like they're not keeping it as competitive as they're supposed to for most of the game. So there's that as well.
It's tough. It's all tough. And again, Brissett goes 19-32, 168 yards passing. The touchdown to Hooper, 70.8 passer rating. Not great all around. And the Patriots lose 32-13. Let's get into some other stuff, Taylor. We can kind of wrap up the show with Drake Maye talk and figure out when we think he's going to play this season, now that he seemingly won't play next weekend. Mayo's standing by him. Rappaport comes out this morning and says that, Drake Maye's time on the field isn't going to come as soon as people may want or people may think. So right now it looks like Jacoby Brissett continuing on, but let's talk and we'll wrap it up later with, again, if and when Maye even will start this year. But let's talk about some other things. And let's go to the defensive side of the football, Taylor, because they gave up the edge once again early in this game. Purdy was running around like a maniac in a good way. He was getting the ball to guys. He was running around, got some first downs, things of that nature. Then they sort of improve where they're down 20-3 at half. They only let up 10 points in the second half, which is some improvement. They contained Purdy a little bit more. They didn't allow him to make those kind of plays. So I don't know if you saw anything specific of what they did, but how did you see the defense improve overall from first half to second half? And what is there to glean from their performance?
I thought the rush lane integrity was the biggest thing, because it looked like that was just going to be this is going to be another game where that was just a massive headache for a long time. And we went into this knowing that Purdy was a threat with his legs, that if you gave him a soft edge, it didn't matter if he necessarily was going to run, just to let him extend it and find guys downfield. That was a major problem. But I'm glad that it did at least get resolved. I'm excited to see schematically what exactly they did. Or, I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to discipline. So what they did also just from the player's perspective to improve that. And then what else? Defensively, throws over the deep middle, like the Tampa 2 stuff is killing them. Jelani Tavai has been great in coverage the past 2 years, but he's really getting picked on. That's a pretty discouraging sign. I actually did think Raekwon McMillan played a little bit better. I don't think he missed any egregious tackles or anything. That was a positive sign. But I would say the defensive line between Keon White early on and then Joshua Uche, like the run defense, obviously you don't usually want him on the field in those spots, but it was so bad where you're talking like, dude, at least throw your body out there and make a pile. You're taking yourself completely out of the play. Those are my really, really big takeaways. Christian Gonzalez had a really great game. John Jones, I thought, had a great game. Like when you talk about, obviously, the Debo catch, there was only so much he could do if the middle of the field defender isn't going to help him out there.
Right.
Marcus Jones was very competitive. He may have been part of a miscommunication, I think, on George Kittle's touchdown. Looked like they were playing some kind of match style of cover zero, because like Pettis was defending something inside, and when he broke outside, it looked like he thought Jones was going to take it. He kind of stood there and they ran into each other a little bit. So, there was that play, but for the most part, I thought Marcus Jones looked good. I'm trying to go down the list. Jabril Peppers had a few plays. He stamped the running back.
Yeah.
He had a breakup and then the interception. He hadn't really made a lot of.
He did also try and fling himself into Juwan Jennings, completely whiff, and then flung himself right into Jelani Tavai. That wasn't a great look.
Jabril Peppers gets a pass. Like when he very rarely has bad misses like that. So that was one where I was like, yeah, that's ugly, but I'm not going to put you on blast. Like usually I give guys some level of grace unless it's just something completely egregious. But yeah, so the secondary, I really thought, especially given the injuries, overall did a solid job. Understandable, like you're going to your depth safeties, like there's going to be some issues there, and that's understandable. I think before this game, Jalen Hawkins had only played center field 12 times for the Patriots. So not really, even though he's done it in the past, not really a familiar spot for him within this scheme. So positives overall, the secondary, Keon White bouncing back. Devon Gotcha, I thought, had a really good game as well. He set some hard edges for the defense. But the downs, I'd say Jelani Tavai and Joshua Uche are kind of the big ones that stand out for me.
It's tough too, those linebackers, right? You look at Tavai, who he played well their first 2 weeks, and then Juwan Bentley gets hurt, and he sort of has to step up there in the middle and off the edge, and hasn't really been able to do any of it. Like he looks lost in pass coverage, and he looked lost last week in pass coverage, and he's done the same this week. And then Anthony Jennings, losing him today, one of their best run defenders off the edge, and Josh Uche then goes in there and, for lack of a better term, lays an egg. Where I know you tweeted it, Alex tweeted about it as well, that play on defense on the goal line where he's just running right past the guys, not even containing anything, just basically sprinting straight past these guys, and the running back runs right past him for a touchdown. Like there's no awareness, there's nothing there. And that's two guys really, who they re-signed this offseason as some of their glue guys on defense. They go through if you go down the line, the Godshaws and those two, and Henry and Bourne and things like that, where we're going to bring back the players we believe in and we think are a solid piece of not only our offense, but our defense as well. And they just go out there and lay eggs when they have to be called upon the most. And that's tough to see, because this is a defense that is sort of the Patriots' calling card, or has been their calling card, the side of the ball that you didn't think you had to worry about, where the offense, we'll see what happens. And there's the rookie and the offensive line and the wide receivers, this, that, and the other thing. The defense was supposed to be a sure thing, and they looked like a sure thing, at least after week 1 in Cincinnati. That side of the ball kept them in it. And ever since then, 3 straight losses, 3 straight quarterbacks dicing you up in pass coverage outside of Christian Gonzalez, and linebackers, and running the football on you too. And so it's tough to see. And I think they'll bounce back. Like I was writing a little bit about it. We haven't been able to post it just yet, where it's all the same coaching wise on that side of the football, besides Bill Belichick. And on one hand, it's like, okay, yeah, obviously that's a huge loss for them and Bill Belichick, but I also don't know if the rest of them are just going to completely fall apart and not be able to call a defense or put their guys in the right position just because that top guy isn't there anymore. You get what I'm kind of get what I'm trying to say?
I think so.
It's all over the place, and I don't like it, and they need to do a lot to turn this thing in the other direction here too.
But you know what we do like, Mike?
What's that?
We like Prize Picks.
We do like Prize Picks. Let's talk. Oh, you know what we need to do? Let's I need to load up the thing. Sorry, give me 1 second. Prize Picks.
Also, another reminder in the comments section, if you wouldn't say it to our face, put in the comments.
Yeah, I like that.
Don't be stupid.
I won't say DeMarcus Covington. I won't say DeMarcus Covington sucks, because he doesn't suck.
They showed resilience. I was afraid that
they did.
Like 2 straight weeks of the defense, just like, what is happening? Again, the blown coverage was the worst one, but that's also like your third safety who was put in the spot he's not usually in. So I'm not giving the team the pass necessarily, but because it's one player who, you don't typically see give up big plays and things like that, like I said, feels like more of an isolated incident. But I really was impressed by the resilience they showed, because they kept stopping the 49ers. The offense couldn't do anything with it. There really was a point where it's like, if you had any faith in the offense, you would have been like, hold up. They might actually be able to win this, because the defense is getting stops when they need to, and it looks like last year. But again, it looked like last year where they keep giving the offense opportunities and they can't capitalize on it.
Yep, sure does. All right, we're going to hit on the rest of the offense in a minute. We're going to talk about Ramondre's fumbling problem. We'll talk about the rest of the nightmare in Santa Clara. But first, let's listen to our friends over at Prize Picks, because Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike the other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch those winnings roll in. Unfortunately, Taylor, we missed out on our Pats Daily picks today because Demario Douglas couldn't get it done and Brandon Ayuk had a nice long reception.
Against zone, damn it.
I was going to say it was against zone. It wasn't Christian Gonzalez's fault, but here we are 0-2 on our picks today. But we got another one coming for Sunday Night Football. I'll tweet that one out in a little while because kickoff is just over 20 minutes away. And we'll go back to the drawing board, Taylor, me and you, for next week's game against the Miami Dolphins. But PrizePicks is the way to do it. So head over there today, put in your lineup, and try and win some cash with us. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks on the app. So download it today, use code CLNS, and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, Taylor. Let's go to Ramondre. Let's talk Ramondre because we're
Oh my gosh.
That's fine. I'm trying to find some quotes here as well because Mayo spoke about Ramondre Stevenson in the locker room and said that Ramondre is one of the most disappointed players let me try and find the thing. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do a million things at once and sometimes I just need to stop talking.
Let me know if I can assist.
No, you're fine.
There's no one more. There's crutches in the locker room, which is not surprising, but
so no one is more disappointed in himself no one is more disappointed in Ramondre Stevenson than Ramondre Stevenson is the crux of what Mayo had to say. His 4th fumble in 4 games, his 2nd straight game with a lost fumble. He comes off the field for, I think, a drive as sort of a, hey, don't do this again. And then they let him back in the game. And now, granted, he did bounce back and didn't put the ball on the ground again, but too little, too late. Like, that's the kind of stuff that can't happen. We talked about it last week. Ball security is job security. Bill Belichick was the one, too, who put that and ingrained that into his head. He nicknamed him the franchise and said the franchise is in your hands when you hold the football, and he puts it on the ground again. So I guess I'll ask you it this way, Taylor. Are you worried about Stevenson and this fumbling problem? Like, is this a problem yet? I know it should be called one because it's been 4 times in 4 games. How do they improve on it? Is this a thing that just – or how does he improve on it, I guess? Is this a thing that's just going to live with him? Does he get benched because of it? Like, where does he and where do the Patriots go from here? Because 4 weeks in a row, it is a damn problem.
I don't think he gets benched because he was benched for a series, but obviously he came back, protected the ball, actually looked good. I thought the outside zone scheme actually looked the best it has in a couple of weeks because Duo, they were just blowing up. Like, they were getting into the backfield very quickly. I think the Ramondre's in his head. 4 straight fumbles in a row. Like, he knew it was a problem after the first week. He knew it was a problem in week 2. He knew it was a problem in week 3. He knew it was a problem going into this game. We've talked about it a lot. And now we kind of look like jerks. I mean, at some point, obviously, it gets old when you keep getting asked the same question because there's no secret. Hold on to the ball. It's really not that complicated. But sometimes I do think players get in their head, and I wonder, honestly, if it maybe affects how he plays. Because like Mayo said, he's one of the best tackle breakers in the NFL. But part of that is the fact that sometimes the ball ends up being a little looser than you'd like it to. And if you're thinking about that, while the ball is still, while you're trying to protect the ball and it plays like those wires can get crossed a little bit. So I just think he's thinking too much because for this to happen every single week, I think he had 2 hands on the ball too. I don't think he was just holding it with one. I think he was holding it and the guy still punched it out. So, I mean, good play by the San Francisco 49ers as well. I don't know why I said their whole name like that. But bottom line, it can't keep happening. If he does fumble again, I think you bench him for the whole game because you can't keep sending this message of, it's going to be okay just because he's one of our best players. Like, we didn't like when Bill benched people. But now it's getting to the point where it's gotten past the point, honestly. I thought he was going to get benched the whole game, and I wouldn't have been upset by it. I think we all were like, he's probably not coming back. And we saw them show him some leniency, and he is a leader on the team and all that. But as a leader, you got to show that. Now he's going to have to deal with these questions for another whole week, and it's really no one's fault but his own. He's got to get it figured out.
So let's ask this then. Did they give Ramondre the contract too early? Should they have waited? Like, on one hand, I think it's kind of a –
I think that's a lot. I think
it's a lot too. But if you can't hold on to the football, Taylor, you can't hold on to the football. And you can look at it through that lens too, where, oh man, like, is this guy just going to be a liability moving forward? And I like that you mentioned it's in his head because sometimes you don't kick that stuff. I think Greg Olsen was saying it on the broadcast where if you just keep fumbling, that's all you're thinking about, and you're not going to be able to cut as smoothly. You're not going to be able to see the field as well as you'd like to, because the only thing that's in your head is, man, I got to hold on to this football, and it's supposed to be a second nature thing, and it doesn't seem like that way for Ramondre. Now, obviously, I think it is a little far, to say that they paid him too early and that it's not worth it, because at the end of the day, he is one of the better running backs in football. You mentioned the tackle breaking. He's a leader, things of that nature, but it's tough to see him put the football on the ground 4 straight games. That is a can't have it situation on a team that is predicated on running the football. And that's how if they're going to win games this season, it's going to be close. It's going to be on defense, and it's going to be running the football down the other team's throats.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett literally just said on the offensive performance today, tough. We can't spot them 2 turnovers like that. I think that's where it starts, and then it comes back to the fundamentals and execution. I hope somebody asks him about the pick 6, because I'd like to know his perspective if there's something that he would admit that he could have done better. I feel like watching the tape will give us a better idea, but again, man, that was like a Madden linebacker play, where in half of the Maddens you just never want to throw over the middle because those dudes can just freaking super jump. And Fred Warner is that kind of guy. And to be fair, like, he did get lost where there was a defender and a receiver running right past him. So he kind of disappeared for a second, I think, as Jacoby was about to throw. And I just don't. I'm so sick of people thinking I'm like some Jacoby apologist, because really this game was terrible.
Yeah.
But that one play, I was like, sometimes elite players make elite plays. Like, and then he also got rocked by 2 people trying to prevent the touchdown, which was rough. But yeah, I don't even know. I feel like I was rambling a little bit there. But
look, it's our friend KT Robinson who said that these 2 don't cut it, except you're in the chat watching our show, KT Robinson. So I know I had to do it, but what are we doing? What are we doing here? Anyway, I had something else that I wanted. Oh, all right. Let's talk about the throw to Jalen Polk, because everyone's getting mad at me and saying that I didn't think it was a catch. Taylor, I didn't think it was a catch. One foot went down, and then his left leg went out of bounds before his right leg. I thought it was close, but I didn't think it was some egregious call that they didn't give him a catch.
Oh no, I thought that his right foot got down, but I didn't see that it went over somebody's foot.
Yeah, okay.
So I thought that second one got down. I know some people were saying he might have gotten a knee down as well. I don't know. But I definitely thought it was when I first saw it, I was like, that's not a catch, it's just a ridiculous effort. Then on the replay, I thought that he might have gotten both feet down, but you said it. I would like to see the replay in other angles, but I did not like that decision. I'm like, dude, why are you going so far downfield? But it also showed you why Jalen Polk can play some of that X for you. Like, we've seen him more in like 2 receiver packages over Thornton. And I think that's why we're like, yeah, Thornton is fast, but Polk is way more aggressive on those kinds of plays. You even saw he was running, and then he peeked for a second to see that the safety was coming over the top. And it was just like the play that he made on the Drake Maye deep shot early on in the summer, where Drake tried to stared it down and Jalen Hawkins got over the top. He goes up and kind of shields it so we can bring it down through contact. Like, that's the kind of stuff you want to see from Polk. Now, he did have a pretty tough drop. It wasn't an easy reception necessarily. It was like the fully extending drive where he looked like he didn't do enough to get separation at the top of the route. Jacoby threw him a catchable ball. It went through his hands. There was also the back shoulder that Jacoby threw inside. One of multiple throws, I was like, Jacoby, man, what are we doing here? But yeah, I thought for the most part, Jalen Polk continued to show why he should be getting more targets, because he's so competitive and so tough. There's going to be downsides, just like with the lineman, just like with Drake Maye. But then when he does stuff like that, you're like, damn, no one else on this team is really doing anything like that. So hopefully we see more targets from him. Thought we'd see more Pop, to be honest. Yeah. I'd like to see how many more opportunities he had. But again, man, like, there were at least 3 times where I'm like, Pop should probably have gotten the ball here, but didn't.
Just 3 catches for 13 yards on 3 targets for Pop. Not going to cut it.
Also,
your best player.
KJ Osborne, it's just
tough.
We love the person. He's not it.
Yeah.
I feel like half the targets that go his way are incomplete and are drops. I just think
1 catch on 5 targets today for KJ Osborne.
I know one was broken up because like the guy was right on his back. That one, I'm just like, I think the defense is anticipating a quick throw. I didn't put that one on him, but I mean, they need Kendrick Bourne back. Like, they need a third guy who can be some kind of threat, because no one else in this receiving core, at wide receiver at least, has shown that they deserve any level of respect from defenders.
Well, I like that you mentioned Polk as an X option, because I do think he showed a little bit of that today. And we both agree that the decision to go there on fourth down by Jacoby wasn't the right one. And at least I didn't see the play in full, so I don't know if there was any other option there where he was just kind of like, F it, let me just give this guy a chance. But he made a good play on the football and showed that he could be that guy, even if at the end of the day he didn't come down with it. He made the catch. Any other play in that situation, he can do something like that. So I wonder now, Taylor, we see that today. We see KJ Osborne not have a great game. We don't see much production, really much play from, or no play from Javon Baker. Booty was out there for a little while, had one catch for 11 yards, which was pretty solid, his second of the season. But I wonder now, Kendrick Bourne, as reported by Ian Rappaport, set to return to practice this week. If and when, and Tyquan Thornton, no catches on one target. And so I wonder, Kendrick Bourne comes back.
It wasn't catchable, to be fair.
Okay. But no catches.
Yeah, no, I'm not
right
making excuses for Tyquan. I like I was saying, I think that their best receiver trio is Polk, Pop, and KB.
Do that. Okay, that's where I was going with this. Put Polk at the X, put KB in at the Z, put Pop at the slot, and go that way and go with that and see what happens. And maybe give Javon Baker a chance. Now I don't know what he's doing in practice and everything like that, but he's out there, he's active, and he's not even on the field.
This is like the Kayshon Boutte situation last year for me, where I'm like, if they're not using him, it's probably for a reason, because there's not that much, like there's not a whole bunch of guys doing anything. It's like Polk and Pop, and then no one else is doing anything at all. I find it very hard to think that he's doing enough in practice. But
Thornton's not doing anything on the field.
He's at least clearing stuff out and like running.
But is he? Because they're not doing anything with it. So yeah, he's clearing it out for what?
That doesn't mean he's not doing his job necessarily. I don't like. And plus, it's clear that they just see him as mostly a decoy. Like, I'm not defending him, but that's what his function is in the offense. And with Javon Baker, like, dude, I hesitate to think that someone who they clearly liked. Like, we know that Javon was like Drake's go-to guy, and they were giving him opportunities, and then he stopped capitalizing on them, and we stopped seeing him. We were like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So why should we believe that he is performing any better? I know he's on the active roster, but also the people that have been inactive make more sense to keep inactive than him. And I love Javon Baker, but like, I
don't like the idea of a decoy being a part of your offense in general. Like, he should be an option. You have five guys out there to catch the ball.
Nelson Aguilar was, if we're being honest. It's like
the Nelson Aguilar Patriots offenses were not good at all. So
they don't, dude. Like, there are no good options. That's the reality.
Of course,
there are no good options outside of Polk and Pop. That's it. And I know that, like, put Javon Baker out there, but like, you think the coach?
Yeah, right. If he's not going to do the right thing, I don't disagree. I don't necessarily disagree, but it's also, if Thornton's not doing anything, give the guy a chance in a game and let him see what he can do. I don't know. There's nothing else out there.
I just have very little faith in the rest of the receiving core. I was excited this summer, and I wanted to give everybody a fair shake. And when they played well, I gave them their credit. And when they didn't, I also acknowledged that and was like, we may have to temper expectations. And I mean, I like Kayshon Boutte even. Like, he's getting out there sometimes. He had a catch today, but we're not really seeing. And also, I don't know how well like Javon Baker's skill set maybe just even fits what Jacoby Brissett does well now. Because like most of these deep shots aren't even really catchable at all. And he doesn't like throwing to the sideline very often for whatever reason. And how many reps do we even think that he's getting with Jacoby Brissett? Baker's probably repping with the twos all the time. I think he very rarely is mixing in with Tyquan. And again, I'm not saying Tyquan is, good enough to be out there and be a starting X receiver.
Nobody is. That, I think your point is that nobody is, and I agree with that. There's nothing there at the X receiver position, and hopefully what we saw in that almost fourth down conversion from Jalen Polk, maybe that can change things up a little bit. Maybe they can switch things up a little bit and give him some run, because Tyquan's not doing it on the outside either. All right, let's kind of we're not going to completely wrap it up after this, but we'll lean heavy into the Drake Maye conversation, because it's what people want to talk about. And people want us to talk about. And even though we both don't think that he should go out there and play, there's a reason that that's the talk, because he's the number 3 pick and the offense isn't cutting it. And Jacoby Brissett hasn't, goes another week not having not having a great game. But before we dive in to all of it here, Taylor, let's talk about our friends at Game Time, because it was $71 to get into this game. And that's cheap, but the Patriots got spanked. However, if you want to go to Patriots versus Miami next week, you can get in right now for as little as $127 on the Game Time app. Not too bad for Gillette Stadium, and Game Time gives you the best option and the best way to do it with their Game Time Picks feature. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets on the app. It's not just sporting events either. They got concerts, they got theater shows, things like that. So if you need tickets to anything, head over to Game Time, see if they have it. You can see what your seat view will look like directly in on the app. Just click it, click seat view, and you can see what your spot looks like. So head over to Game Time today. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it, Taylor?
Game time.
There we go. See, we can still have fun here, even though the Patriots are 1-3 and look to be getting worse before they get better. And that's why I want to transition to this. And we hit it a little bit on the head earlier about the quarterback position and Brissett and Drake Maye and things like that. And look, I think from the outside looking in, and I feel like a broken record here because we unfortunately have to do this every single week, but there was this plan, and it was draft the quarterback, bring in a veteran, let the quarterback learn behind the veteran, and ease him into your offense, get your offensive line figured out, and then give the quarterback a soft landing spot and ease him into it because the roster's not that good. They know that, and they got burned from putting in a quarterback in Mac Jones into the system that early before. So they want to be safe. They want to be careful. It all makes sense. It's all well and good. Now, you think about it, and I had this grand plan before the season where it's week 5 and it's Miami and Tom Brady's on the call and you figure out the offensive line by then. However, first of all, Tom Brady's not on the call next week. That's according to Mike Reese. He noted that they're not going to put him on the call because no Tua, no Drake Maye. It's not a great landing spot. It's not a great primetime game, rather, for Fox's A1 crew. So that's out the window. But also, this offensive line is getting worse, not getting better. There's more attrition. Zach Thomas was the only healthy backup offensive lineman by the time or after Caden Wallace and David Andrews get injured, rather. And now you would potentially put him out there with DeMontre Jacobs at left tackle again if Adarian Lowe can't get healthy. No backup there in Caden Wallace because he goes down. You mentioned it. You saw on Twitter. He's on crutches, and obviously David Andrews goes down, and it may be Nick Leverett moving forward depending on the severity of his injury. It was a shoulder, and he didn't return. So I guess I'll kick it to you and ask maybe a little bit more of a deep dive on when you think this Drake Maye thing could even happen this season, because before the show, we were talking about if this offensive line doesn't get better and it continues to get worse and people continue to get injured and you continue to have to grab guys off the scrap heap and throw in a left tackle here and throw in a left tackle here, is it even worth playing him at all this season? And people are going to hate hearing that. They're going to hate hearing that we're going to try and say that maybe you redshirt Drake Maye. But I wonder if there's a chance they do it, giving the disaster right now going on that offensive line.
I don't think you can afford to redshirt him, even if things are bad. I think he has to go out there at some point so you can show, again, like the whole thing was, this is a successful season if free agents and trade candidates look at this team and say, oh, that young quarterback can actually sling it. I would like to play for him. We just need to give him more help. Now, I thought that we would see Drake in October, and that's the timeline that I've been saying. I didn't like the idea of not playing him until like that last 4-game stretch, because we can see on the calendar there's clear checkpoints. Or like that last month, you have the bye week, then you have Josh Allen twice, Justin Herbert, guys that Drake Maye was compared to, and then obviously Marvin Harrison Jr., who, you know, a bunch of people were debating whether the Patriots should have taken him or taken Drake Maye. The reality with this offensive line is, one, they need to get healthy, which right now feels like it's asking a lot. Because even the guys that are in there aren't fully healthy right now. Like, because obviously like City So, and if you get Adarian Lowe or David Andrews back in the lineup, they're probably still going to be dealing with something. On top of that, you still have people out of position where you have Mike Nwenu at tackle. I think he was actually pretty solid today against Bosa from what I didn't really hear his name very often.
Sure.
But even still, you'd like the interior to be Mike Nwenu because that's at least one top tier type player who you can figure he's going to play pretty well. the left side, even if it's some combination of like Layden or City or whoever's playing better, like I still at least want that left guard spot to be whoever you think is the best player at guard outside of Nwenu. But I don't even know if it's realistic to put Mike Nwenu inside. That's the hard part. Like, I know people don't like to listen to, all these other guys have bad offensive lines, but like, they don't even, oh my God, Jacoby's put us in such a difficult position because I want to say,
why do you say you don't know if it's feasible to put Mike on the inside? Because I also think that was sort of
who's at right tackle.
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant moving forward. But okay, yeah, no, that's fair. Depending on what happens with
Wallace is in crutches right now. We're talking like it may be weeks before he's back, or at least, and this was a rookie who was already struggling in some ways. Now you're talking about him having to deal with what could be a significant injury. So, one, I think it's going to take a while for this offense to get healthy and put guys out there they have confidence in. Then I think it's going to take a while for them to start to gel. That's going to be at least like a 3-4 week process. And this is difficult because Jacoby is starting to play at a trajectory where you literally, it's very hard to justify keeping him out there. Mm-hmm. I think he still has buy-in from his teammates. I feel like when they look back on the pick, they'll be like, damn, Fred Warner's a beast. But he also fumbled a ton. So it's like, yeah, but you were also putting the ball in harm's way quite a few times. And that's what I was saying. It's one thing if he's not making big plays. It's another if he's not making big plays and turning the ball over. And if that continues, I think you're going to hit a brick wall where it's like we literally have to play the kid, even if he's not ready, because Jacoby is just not giving us any chance to win. Again, I think this was a week where they did not lose because of Jacoby. Ramondre fumbled. The run game, that was up and down. I'm not going to blame the run game. But the defense, in the first half didn't play well enough. Jacoby was not the reason, but there were also several times where it's like, Jacoby, you're putting this team in a bad spot because you're leaving plays on the field. You're putting the ball in, really shady spots. That's where it gets really difficult because realistically, I think that could force the earliest timeline for Drake Maye, where at some point the locker room starts to not be behind Jacoby anymore. And I think the way they see him taking hits, like we heard Hunter Henry say, I love playing with Jacoby. He's a warrior. I think they respect him for that. And that's buying him time, despite the fact that he's not the most physically talented guy. But I think they're going to hit a wall where they're like, we really can't go any further with this guy. We need someone who can elevate the offense. But then I also think you have to consider what the offensive line looks like, because if you have multiple backups and a rookie, that's just not a fair spot.
Not conducive to success, right?
Right, much less Drake Maye. So I think the most realistic timeline, honestly, may be that last month of the season, where you have as much time as possible to try to get your offensive line healthy and figured out. But also things can get worse. More people can get hurt. And this is just such a bad position. And we're guessing. I've never seen anything like this before. I'm just trying to make sure they don't get their massive investment killed or put him in a position where he starts to deteriorate fundamentally because he doesn't have enough confidence to go out there and stick to his fundamentals and be able to do things that are repeatable. And that's with anybody. It's not about Drake Maye. This will happen with everybody. You're talking about Caleb Williams running around. You think if he doesn't have a whole season of this, you're not going to start to see the good in his game start to kind of go away because he's thinking too much? Like a guy like Jacoby Brissett, who even last year with the Commanders, dude was slinging it when he came in relief for Sam Howell. I was not expecting the version of Jacoby we've gotten, and I think the protection has something to do with that. And that's a veteran quarterback. So I just don't think there's a lot of good options, to be very honest with you. I know that Drake Maye has to start this year. It is going to happen. As much as I don't want to see it happen sooner, I think that might happen. And I feel like I'm just going to have to throw my hands up and be like, this is what you feel is best. It is what it is. You already are in a really shitty position, but I feel like I'm talking in circles.
No, it's a tough way.
Position. It's not an easy discussion to have, and I'm trying to see all the angles of it. And different arguments do make sense, but I just don't like people being so willy-nilly to just throw Drake Maye out there with such bad pass protection. And then people say, it's not just the pass pro's fault. Of course, it's also Jacoby's, but Drake is going to make mistakes too. And those mistakes can be magnified because his supporting cast is worse. Of course, there's going to be the chunk plays and things Jacoby can't do. He's also going to make mistakes that Jacoby wouldn't even make.
Right.
So, we need to see this from all angles to understand it's not as straightforward as, we got to put the kid in, because it really is not that simple.
It's not that simple. And I think that the part that's tough, Taylor, is the fact that, you mentioned it may get worse here. And it's not a sure thing that it gets better. And I think this plan that we're gonna ease him in, soft landing spot, make sure it's a perfect thing. I agree, and I think that that's the best option for it. I just don't know if that's there. And so then you're kind of turning against, at least as an organization, what you originally wanted to do, and you're throwing him out there when you don't think he's ready. And then what if it goes wrong? Then you look back and you regret it, and you say, well, why do we put him in there so early? And there's so many.
It's going to be, oh, Drake May's a bust.
Exactly. And so that's why, that's why it's tough. There's no right answer. Either way, people are going to be happy. People are going to be pissed off no matter what happens. I agree with you. At this point, I wonder I wonder if it's as early as the October, November, or if it's more like late November, December, where we actually see this guy. Now, Jacoby Brissett after the game says, tough that we can't spot them 2 turnovers like that. I think that's where it starts, and then it comes back down to fundamentals and execution. He did also talk about that interception, Taylor. You were wondering what he had to say. He said, we had an in-cut coming open behind the backers. Hats off to Fred Warner. He made a great play, but I put a bad ball out there. I think there's a better throw. I think a better throw would have picked up the first down. So I don't think he's necessarily mad at his decision, but he's mad at the football. Maybe throw it over Fred Warner. Maybe, I don't know, throw it earlier, whatever the case may be. And then asked again about getting hit.
It's one of those where, like, just as a viewer, I would feel like a jerk for just kind of putting it on him when I don't know from his perspective. So that is very helpful. So yes, I think we all know it was on Jacoby, but I just wanted to know the minutia of what exactly he thought he did wrong. So that is very helpful.
And then he's asked again if he can make it through 17 games this way. And he just said, I'm just going to keep getting up. That's all I can do. That's all I'm going to keep doing. So, man,
so I physically cannot.
It's tough. Like, I feel for him. You see him wincing every single play he gets up. He gets slow. And it's like, this poor guy is just out there taking a beating. And whether it's his fault, whether it's not, you can't help but feel bad for the fact that he's out there just getting his butt kicked day in, day out, game in, game out. And the Patriots fall to 1-3. Looks like it's getting worse before it's getting better. What are the faces for?
This who drank my beer in the comments. I don't think anybody drank your beer. I think you did.
See, I saw some people calling for Mayo's job. Oh wow. Brian Hines says it's still Drake Maye week 5. He really wants Drake Maye out there next week. Taylor, okay. So we talked about what they could do, what they should do, analyzing it. Do you want Drake Maye out there next week? Do you think they should just do it? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
Selfishly, like, yeah.
Selfishly,
but realistically, like, using my brain, I do not think that is smart.
Okay.
But I also fully acknowledge that Jacoby is holding this offense back even more than it already is because of its personnel issues. Like, I'm not out here saying, no, we have to keep giving Jacoby chances. I don't think that's it. I just don't want them to ruin Drake Maye. It's literally as simple as that. Like, after this game, I respect the hell out of Jacoby, but like, I'm off the, we got to like give him. I've been consistent. I said after last week, I was like, give me one more week. I want to see if he can improve, start pushing the ball down. Now it's like, you got to show me. I'm not going to assume that you are going to improve. And especially with him being under fire, I don't think it's reasonable to expect him to necessarily improve. So yeah, I mean, of course I want to see Drake Maye as soon as possible. I just don't think it's a responsible choice.
All right, I have one more question for you before we wrap it up. Thoughts on Alex Van Pelt today? Because I think the last 2 weeks, and I'm a fan of Alex Van Pelt. I think he's someone who can call a solid system. I think he's someone who is a career offensive guy, who is a solid person to have in the room alongside a TC McCartney to develop a quarterback. But after the last 2 weeks, I'm kind of not sure about him as a play caller, Taylor. I'm really not. There was the beginning of the Jets game, we talked about it a lot last week, didn't make sense, where they tried to use the play action before establishing a run. And then this week, 2 plays that really stand out to me are the 4th and 1 run up the gut, where there was no creativity. There was nothing there. And then the play call on 4th and 5, where you got to give Jacoby a deep shot down the sideline. And you almost got lucky that it was a nice, you almost got lucky with a first down, but they obviously don't come down with it. And then the other one is the hook and ladder. Like, a lot of people were saying,
I think that was a ticky-tack call on Tyquan Thornton. I actually thought that was a cool play.
I agree. It was a cool play. I don't hate the situation. Like, everyone's saying, like, save that for the AFC Championship game. Save that for the AFC division. Like, the Lions ran it last week, and they got it, so everybody loved it. But they also ran it in a Week 3 game. Like, so I don't really understand the save that for something else, because desperate times call for desperate measures. You're down 2 scores. You can get a first down, call the play. But at the same time, I can also see it from that lens where, okay, why are you calling this now? You're going to lose the game anyway. Save it for, next year. Or if you have a game where Drake Maye comes in and you win 5 games, or whatever the case may be. Long story short, some strange play calls, some not great play calls from Alex Van Pelt. So I ask you, where are you at with AVP through 4 weeks as a play caller and as the OC for this team?
I will say one thing. People keep saying that the Patriots can't run outside zone. And I've been saying I think they can figure it out if they have good chemistry. Patriots on 7 outside zone carries, the most of any carry they had, averaged 5.3 yards per carry. Nothing else that they ran multiple times even averaged 3.
Okay.
So just want to do that real quick.
Sure.
I will say the 4th downs were really rough for me.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, I was like, all right, you know what? You can at least pin San Francisco in their own territory. I didn't love the decision to try to get the fake and then, punt it, or especially considering that they threw it. And I didn't love that. I think them throwing told you that they wanted to pick it up there and they didn't really feel it was real 4th down territory. So I didn't love that. The second one was egregious though, because you come out in a heavy look. You try to catch. To be fair, they did almost catch them. One guy jumped. He just didn't go on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Honestly, smart by the offensive line, not trying to touch him. Almost worked, but didn't. But then you come out and you run it up the gut. That is my pet peeve. Especially a yard is a long way to go in the NFL. Half a yard, 4th and inches, maybe. Sure. I'll give you a little bit because that's it's not that far to go. That looked like such a long yard. As soon as they handed it off, I'm like, you have to have some kind of misdirection or jet motion or something. Nothing. I hated that. That was ugly. I liked the other 4th down where they actually had the play action and then threw it to Austin Hooper.
Yep.
That was awesome.
That was a great play.
And I need to still actually be able to see the plays and sequencing and everything because it's so hard. I'm not a coach. It's really hard for me to pick up on those things live in game unless there's egregious mistakes. But I will say that the second 4th down, and then you can lump in the first one if you want as well. I wouldn't blame you. I'm just kind of on the fence about it. I didn't like that at all. So I really want to see. And also there were a couple of things where they used Antonio Gibson in motion in packages they had previously used Hunter Henry or DeMario Douglas. At least one of them got blown up because I think they had a pretty decent idea of what was coming. I think somebody tweeted at me that there may have been an execution thing where maybe Ramondre didn't get out quickly enough. These are all things that we'll figure out more tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were definitely moments from Alex Van Pelt I did not like. I'm gonna have to go back to the tape and find out for sure. But for right now, I'm giving him C-. I don't want to go D+ because I feel like I would have really had to hate the game plan. And there were some good things, but definitely that 4th down just sticks in my brain. It's can you think of any other egregious play calls that he had?
The 4th and 5. I want to see it again. Because I admittedly didn't see the entire play, but I hated
an alert. Yeah.
I hated the decision by Jacoby.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I hate the play call or if I just hate the decision, which is why I want to go back and see it. But yeah, the 4th and 1 was brutal. But I like that you said, Taylor, that you're going to dive into it and we're going to figure out what actually happened because me and Taylor have a lot of work to do to get you guys informed as possible on the Patriots 30-13 loss to the 49ers. So we'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow with a mailbag. So shoot us your questions. We'll ask for it on Twitter. We'll be back with some film on Tuesday. So we're going to take tonight, tomorrow, dive into it. We'll have some written stuff up on the website. And some breakdowns on Twitter and things like that to figure out what actually happened here. And then we'll be back this week for a bunch of other content on Pat's Daily. So I think that's going to do it for us here, Taylor, on our post-game show, unless you have any final thoughts that you really feel like you got to get off your chest on this one.
No, I'm emotionally exhausted.
I think I agree. It's tough. The quarterback position, the offensive line continues to be ugly. Can't get anything going on offense. Even though the defense had some solid bright spots, there was also continued struggles, especially from the linebacker position, some in the secondary as well. And they let up 30 points to Brock Purdy, let him run wild early in the game. And a bunch of injuries as well. Kyle Duggar goes down. Keon White got hurt. He ended up coming back. But Caden Wallace, David Andrews leave the game on the offensive line and don't return. So
also, I want to say real quick, good game. Who drank my beer? I'm all right with a little shit talk as long as we all bring it together. We're all on the same page here. We all want Drake Maye. We all want to see this team do well. We don't want to cover a bad team. We're really just looking out for the kid. That's all. But again, we're all on the same page. We love y'all.
I think I like this guy now. He's fun.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah, he was upset. We're upset too. So
I'd like a beer. I for sure like it.
Yeah, we should. We should go get beers. But again, thanks to everyone for tuning in. I like the banter. I appreciate the banter. Just be respectful. Me and Taylor both agree with that. But
We love you
anyway,
guys.
yeah.
We love you guys.
Yeah, but there's almost
Yes.
2,000 of you guys watching this thing, guys and gals. So we appreciate you. But we'll be back tomorrow on Pat's Daily. We'll have written stuff all over the website tomorrow into Tuesday. We'll have some tape to break down, things of that nature. So make sure you stick around and subscribe to the channel, rate, review, subscribe, like this video. It helps us out a ton. Head over to Prize Picks, head over to Game Time, use our codes CLNS. Appreciate you, Pat, man. Thank you so much. We appreciate any super chats.
3 tackles straight. Just
yeah,
bring it.
I don't hate it. I mean, honestly, they need the help. They need all the help they can get on the offensive line. But long story short, Patriots fall 30-13 to the Niners, fall to 1-3. A lot more questions than answers out of this one. So we'll see where they go from here. They take on Miami next week on Sunday from Gillette Stadium. So thank you for tuning in, everyone. We will see you next time. It's not Pat's Daily, it's Pat's Postgame. But take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everyone.